Hey everyone, it's Sam here, and I've made a monster. This is this year's selection box, and it's just grown and got bigger and bigger and bigger. Now, it is so simple to make. It's all deconstructed, and there's actually a lot of parts that you don't have to add. There's a lot of additions. This main shape here is what you will need, but these boxes on the front are an addition. Even this roof is an addition. You might want yours open. But inside there's something really special, but you're going to have to keep watching to see what that is, because in total there are 24 boxes, which is why it's accidentally become an advent calendar. So if you do want to make an advent, there's still some time. I think this would be wonderful. It's something very different. I think it's going to work for so many occasions. In the video I actually mentioned, I think it reminds me of Harry Potter and the frog box. It looks a little bit like a circus tent. I just think there's a lot you can do with this. And if you don't add the roof part, it gives it a different look again. If you don't add these boxes, or maybe every other, there's just so many different steps that you can miss out and create a different look. So like I said, very easy. I haven't used any dies to make this box. So let's get started. So like I said at the start, there is lots of parts to this that you don't have to add. But these 6 boxes that you need to make is the main structure, so that main shape, and then add the base, and you could stop there. So you definitely need these ones, but everything else I then add and show you is completely optional. So you want 6 pieces of 10.5 by 8.25. This is the, which colour red was this? Imperial red. Oh no, it's charismatic red from Craft Stash. Along that 10.5 side, you're going to score at 1 inch, 5, 6 and 10. Rotates that 1/2 inch tab is along the bottom, and you're going to score at 1, 6 3/4 and 7 3/4. Fold and burnish all of those score lines, and then if you want to do the little boxes that are attached to the front, then you'll want 6 pieces of 7 by 7.5. Along the 7 inch side, you're going to score at 1, 5.5 and 6.5. And then rotate, so that 1/2 inch tab's at the bottom, and you're going to score at 1/2 inch, 3 inches, 4 inches and 6.5. And again, fold and burnish. Then for the hinges to connect everything, you want 6 pieces of 2 by just a smidge under 6 inches, just a little bit under, just so you don't see it out the top. And along that 2 inch side, you're going to score at 1 inch. Okay, so first of all, you want the 1/2 inch tab on the right hand side, and you're going to cut up all of these bottom score lines to the first one. And then this one you're going to just remove like so. Come along this 1/2 inch side and cut up again, and then just remove, so cut past that first score line and just down to the second, just so again you're removing that. You just want this tab left, and then just cut a little wedge off of each side there. And then you want to work now along this side, and you're going to cut down past the first score line and down to the second on all of those score lines. And then this whole section here you want to remove. So I'm just cutting just slightly under the score line there, and then just remove the tops of these 2 like so. If I lay it back down that way, you should have something like this. You've got your 1/2 inch tab, you just cut up all the score lines there, and then you've removed this whole section, and then just the little tabs above those 2 squares. Just leave that top part now for the minute, but the squares along the bottom here, just cut a little wedge off of the sides. Okay, and then this is going to stick like so, and it's going to be attached to the, we're all going to attach that way. So this is going to be the last one I stick down. So this one here, you can also just take a little wedge off of each side. It's generally the score lines you're kind of removing. Then take your glue, and you just want to run that all along that tab, and then fold it in half, and then just fold that one over. And you could make this maybe ahead of time, and you could keep all the boxes flat and all piled up. Same with all the smaller ones, in fact all of it, and then you can construct it nearer the time. Obviously it's going to be quite big when it's all together. Some of us don't always have the room to hold all of these 3D makes, but it's certainly something you can prepare and then keep till you need it. So again, going this back to, you want it this way because they're going to fold in, that's going to close. So that one there you want to fold up. You're going to fold the back one down and just run your glue along the bottom, fold in the sides, and then just close that off like so. And just take a ruler or something that you can get in there and just spread out any glue. Just make sure everything's all stuck down like so. And now, because we want this to be able to close and stay closed, what you'll find is there's probably one side will go in fine, but the other side will just buckle a little bit. So just take a little bit. In fact, I can see that score line running all the way down. So I'm just going to trim off that score line. And then I'm also just going to take a little wedge just off that top part on each side. What we want is this to lock closed. If it doesn't, it's not the end of the world. You could put a little hook and loop on that part and close it, so it closes on the front there. You could always apply a magnet. And if you cut this too much and it's always popping out, you can stick another, original size piece on it again, and then just take a little bit off. And then you just want to cut a little bit away on the sides of these, just the front side, which is just there and here. Again, not too much because this will rub against this part. So you want it to all lock in. There we go. You want it to stay closed like so. To decorate, I've got this piece here, and this is 3 3/4 by 5.5. So you're going to want 6 pieces. I've got different patterns from the same pad. It's this one here. It's a really old pad, but yeah, I thought get the papers used. So I'm using a little bit of everything really across this project. Then you'll want 2 pieces of 3/4 of an inch by 5.5. So they're going to go on the sides. And then I've got, which one must be that one for the top? Yeah, which is 3/4 by 3 3/4. So again, you'll want 6 in that size, and you'll want 12 in that size, and 6 in that size. And then you want to cut this one exactly the same way that I've cut that one. You put it together the same way. So again, start with your 1/2 inch tab on your right, cut up the score lines. You're going to put the whole thing together and cut the same things out as I did with that one. Okay, so I've got both of my boxes. Now, to make it a bit easier for whoever to open, you can do this before you put it together. If you've got a little punch or a circle die, if you don't have dies, just cut a little triangle, just to create a little finger pull. Just going to pop it in the middle there, about halfway down. It's just a 1/2 inch one. And again, just in the middle of this one, like so. Okay, now the mats and layers for this one. So again, you'll want 6 pieces of 2 1/4 by 4 1/4, then 12 pieces of 3/4 by 4 1/4, and 6 pieces of 3/4 by 2 1/4. And then all you need to do is add some glue on the back. You might want to do every other that you add an extra box. And like I said, you might not want to add them at all. And then you're going to sit this in the middle. You want about 3/4 on each side. Just push it across. And then if you pop it this way, you can push it down so it's flush. Okay, so here is something I've been doing earlier, what I've prepared earlier. Now, when I was doing this, the reason why I'm going to continue is so it all looks the same for me. But what I would suggest is don't stick your side mats down on your largest box until you've put it together. Because what I think would be better, so if you can see here, I've started to put these together with the hinges, but you can see the joins of the hinges inside. If you imagine this doesn't have the pattern paper, I think actually in hindsight, it's better to add the hinge. In fact, I've made it a bit too big. What size did I end up doing? I think you need to make them smaller actually. 5 3/4. I think I said 6, didn't I? Yeah, I'm just going to trim that. I'll write that down in the, it would have popped up that it would have been 5 3/4. Anyway, fold it in half and stick them, or one side onto there. In fact, it'd be, yeah, it will be that way. And then you'd stick the other one on to there. So it opens up the same way that this one does, and then add the pattern paper. But that way, from the inside, you've got a much neater finish. Once the boxes are in here, you're not going to notice it anyway. So, or you might want to do it the way I've done it. It's up to you. So like I said though, I'm going to continue. So all you want to do is take one of your hinges, run the glue all the way down one of the sides. You want it so the fold is facing, oh, hang on. For me, it's going to be inside. So I want it flush with the bottom, but I've done it a little bit shorter so you don't see it from the outside. And it's just flush. The fold there is just flush. Oh, I've done it on the wrong side, haven't I? I've got this far and now I'm sticking it on the wrong side. Just add a little bit extra. It's got to go on that one. Here we go. So you just stick it down onto whatever side, because this would be the first one that you're doing. And then you're going to attach it to your next box. But like I said, you might be attaching it the other way that I just showed you. So just give that a minute to dry. Whilst I've got some glue on this side, add a little bit more. I'm going to stick it straight onto that one. Really, really easy. It's just lots of card and lots of mats and layers. It's a very easy construction. And because I've used the construction glue already, I made these, you know, actually yesterday, the day before, they're already so strong. Okay, once you're happy it's stuck down, add your glue to your next part, and then you add your next box. But for me, I'm finishing. So this is how you'll join it up. And you're just looking to just see a little bit of the score line kind of through the gap. Once it's stuck down, I'll hold it up and make sure the whole thing is flush, because we're going to need to stick it to a piece of cardstock. I'm just going to lift up one of the other sides, but can you see there? You can just kind of see the score line as you're looking on. Okay, some there's a little bit bigger, others, but just make sure it's just, as long as it's all flush with the bottom and you've butted them up to each other, that's going to look good. So some of you might not have added these extra boxes on, but you'll get to, you know, you understand now what I mean about having, you need the big ones because that's the main shape of it. It's what holds it all together. So now we can move on to the next part, which is the segments. So again, completely optional. Some of you might want to just keep this open. What I would suggest, because I'm not going to show you how to do the base until I've made all of these, because these will make this stay in shape. So if you don't want to add these, just fast forward a bit until, you know, to the part where I put the base in. So you want to cut 12 pieces because there's 2 layers of the segment. So I've got those 6 and then I have another 5 here, which are going to go on top. So to make those ones, like I said, I mean, you could have 1 layer, so you could have just 6, and then you'll have another kind of level to put more things in. There's just so much scope with this, which is, but I thought I'm going to keep going, and then you can then choose the bits that you want to, you know, keep. So to make these segments, you want 12 pieces of 11 3/4 by 8 1/4. Along the 11 3/4 side, you're going to score at 3 7/8 and 7 3/4, and then rotate, and you're going to score, and then fold and burnish all the score lines. Okay, next you want to just eyeball, because it's going to be a funny measurement, because you're going to have to do half of 3 7/8. You're going to get into those 1/16 of an inch. So literally, I'm just eyeballing. It really doesn't matter if you're slightly more to the left or the right. It's, you just want to cut rough triangles, but you want to mark the halfway of each of the rectangles just along the 2 outer long sides there. So you're not doing it along the short side. This is just on the long side. So you can see just how quickly I'm not, you know, taking any particular time doing that. And then what you want to do is from that marker, you're going to cut across to the end there. And then this one, you're going to cut down. And don't worry if you're a little bit off on the marker. This is just, like I said, it all makes sense in a minute. It's not going to matter too much. and then down again. We want to have a triangle on the side of the rectangle. Again, down to that corner, join that one up, and like so. Okay, now repeat that on the opposite side. Now, because I've used the whole length or whole size of A4, I need to make a tab to be able to attach all these. So you want to cut yourself 6 or 12, however many you've made, that are 1.5 by 2 3/4. Along the 1.5 side, you're going to score at 1/2 inch. You just want to create a little tab. And then this is going to stick, that 1/2 inch tab is going to stick underneath. So you've got this, which will help lock the box together. If you just cut just a little wedge off the side there of the 1/2 inch tab, okay, and then just take a little glue. I'm using the construction glue for all of this because you want it to be nice and strong, especially if you want this to be a keepsake. You know, if it's going to be an advent, you know, you want this to be something that people can use each year. So just lie that underneath so it lines up with the fold or the score line. Now I'm going to give you the measurement for the matte layer. I haven't done matte layers. You don't see them when they're in the box. You can see when they come out, they're like this. I think there's so much pattern paper on it. It is nice to have a little bit of plain. You might want to emboss these parts. I would say if you emboss, be careful because it might not fit in, because that's going to add dimension. If you do want to add layers, obviously it's a lot because there's 3 for just one box. So you do the maths, but you'll want to cut them. So you've got, let's say, so it's going to be 3 3/4 by 2.5. Okay, then we just want to make little kind of lips for the side. So just cut, so you've got about 3/4 of an inch on each side, just on the end that's near to this one here. Okay, then if you bring it all together and just fold that one so it's on the outside, that's going to help you keep it in that triangle shape. Keep these folded away from you. You don't want to get any glue on those, but you're going to keep it locked in like this. Hold it that way, it's a bit easier. Just make sure that's straight. Okay, fold one of the sides in and then add some glue. This is why I said it didn't matter if your triangles were a little bit wonky, you're only sticking them down. Now, they're not going to join up. Now, if you had bigger cardstock, I had to work with the size cardstock that I had a lot of as well, because I've used a lot of red card. But you could do it so that these perfectly line up, but I don't think it really matters. But again, you can do that if you want. So just hold that down, and then if you just go over to the other side, fold one in. Again, doesn't really matter which one. You're going to cover all this in a minute, so don't worry if some of the glue's sticking out either. And then fold that one down. Do make sure that it's right up into that corner so your sides are all equal. Otherwise, it's not all going to fit together in your pie piece like this. Okay, let that dry and then repeat it again. I wouldn't do one box from start to finish, like cut it, score it, fold it, stick it together. Do it as batches. Cut them all to size, score them all, stick them all down, and then add the pattern paper. You'll find it'd be much quicker. So I've got these pieces here, so I've already cut them. It's the last piece I've got, but basically you want to cut yourself a piece of cardstock that is, what is this one here, 3 3/8 by 3 1/8, and then from the 3 3/8, you know, have that running along the bottom here like mine. Just cut up to the center, 3 3/8. So just roughly mark the middle. Again, I wouldn't worry if you're a little bit out. I think all of mine are a little bit wonky. And then just fold your sides back in that way, and that's going to go in now that way, and you'll see it locks in. And once they're all in together, they're pushing a bit more as well. And then you can add your matte layer. You might have to move it because it's not an equal sided triangle. But you want to have it so that, there we go. It'll fit. You'll know when you've got it in the right orientation. So I'm going to stick that one down, that one on the back. Again, do it on all your other pieces. And you might choose to add another full piece of cardstock on here, because obviously it does dip in slightly. If I open it, you see it's not, the red card's not completely flush. If you want to, you can, but again, mine is a selection box for my best friend. It's not an advent, but there's little things that you could, you know, finish maybe a bit better if you want to make it more of a keepsake. I would just cut, you know, a full piece there to cover that, and then do your matte layer separately. But I think that looks good as it is. So now I can It's like Trivial Pursuit game here. What you want to do is when you got them together, so I've got my join there, make sure the joins are all facing in. And that way, you know, you've got all your sides are all correct. So you can see there, it all fits perfectly. And then you want to put them in here, because then we will do the base, because it's much, much easier. So I'm going to just pop these 3. So, and they will be snug. Now, another tip, you might not want to, you know, seal this all together. Maybe leave one open still, even though I showed you that as kind of the first part. Maybe leave the last 2 to join with the hinge and put these in first, your segments, and then add your hinge. Because you could, that could easily just have a little bit more of a bigger gap if need be. The last thing again I want is that you've made all these boxes and then it doesn't fit in, but you can see there it's nice and snug. I'm picking it up and nothing's falling through. It looks really good from the back as well. Now I've got the other 3 there, but before I put them in, you've then got the lid, which is another option. So this is going to stick inside. I've got the other bit to do with you now and give you the measurements, and then I would slide in these last ones. But if you just want to make 6, you might have another little gift to go on here, a little bit of clothing. It's entirely up to you. Like I said, it's kind of a bit endless really in the ways that you can put this together. But if you want to make the roof, the closure, then you're going to want to cut yourself 3 pieces of 8.5 by 5. Along the 8.5 side, you're going to score at 4 and 8. And then along the 5-inch side, you're going to score at 1/2 inch. Also, go back along that 8.5 side. You just want to put a little notch at 2 and 6. Okay. And then just with a metal ruler, you want to score from that little marker down to the bottom corner of each of those rectangles. So right down into that corner. You're not going off into this piece, just stay within the square there. And again on this one. And then you want to create mounting folds on those triangle score lines. That middle fold needs to be a valley. Again, mounting folds on the other one. And then a mounting fold on that tab. And then you can just fold that bottom one as normal. You want to remove this little square in the corner. And then just cut a little wedge off of the tab there. Okay, so you'll have 3 of them. So now we can stick them together. So I've already stuck 2 together. You just add your glue to the tab and then sit this one and line it up. Make sure the base score line lines up. That's really important because you want it to all fit in the box. If you're a little bit off at the top, just trim it. And if you wanted to remove some bulk, you could cut a deeper V in this section. You don't want to go right down, but you could certainly, you know, cut a fair amount in there. I don't think I'm going to need to be fair. I haven't put it this, you know, I'm making only one of these. So it may be that when I go to put it together, I might need to reduce the bulk a bit, but we'll see. I'm going to refold that as a valley fold in a minute, but let the glue dry first. You then want to cut yourself 6 pieces. So I've got this one here. I've got 6 pieces of 3 5/8 by 4 1/4, and you just want to mark, I don't think I did on this one, along the short side you just want to mark halfway, which is going to be roughly, because again it's that funny 3 5, so half of 3 is 1 1/2, and then you've got 1 2 1/2. It's in between 1 3/4 and 1 7/8. What you could also do for people that are a little bit, because it can be confusing and the marks are so small on your rulers, just pinch it across like so, and then just pinch there, and you'll see in my case it is right where I've done that pen mark there, but that will give you the center. It's just so you've got somewhere to cut up to, that's all. So you're going to cut now, or use your trimmer, just cut right up, and then again down into that corner, and now you'll have perfect matte layers for each of those triangles. So I'm going to stick those 2 down. Okay, so now go back to where you've joined it and just fold it so it's a valley fold again, because the tab's going to make it quite thick. I just want to make sure that all of them all fold in. So you've got all those mountain and valley folds, all mountain folds around the triangle. Just go over the fold there where you've got your join, like so. Now if you want, you can join it together this side, but I think I'm going to stick it in and then join it up. I'm going to use the quick grab glue for this, and I think I'm going to actually cut up each of these because I think it's just going to give you a little bit more movement. Okay, so just snip up each of those, and I'm going to do 2 at a time. Run your glue. There's no pressure on here, which is why I'm using the quick grab glue. I'm not going to be holding it, you know, up by this part. You just want to bring it in. Actually, I might have to do them all at once. You might want to use some red tape, or maybe I should have used the Collal glue. We'll see how this sticks. Just because it's all going in at the same time, it's quite hard to kind of have some of it like lifted halfway out. So I think I'm just gonna have to go for it. I'm just gonna bring that around, and you're lining it up just with the top of the box. Oh, I think I've done it okay. So just whatever works for you. Like I said, you might want to do tape. You might want to add the glue to about 1/2 inch down inside each box. I'm just going to go back around, just putting a bit more pressure on each of those. Okay, and then where I've got the join, just going to run the glue down that tab. Just fold that in, and then you may want to join it up, actually, just thinking about it, and then just slot the whole thing in. Whatever's going to work best for you. But considering I've just had to visualize how this is going to look in my head, it's coming together pretty well. Okay, and when you're happy it's all dry, where you've got that join, carefully bring it together. So you know I said about I might have to remove the bulk. See, now that does look lovely, like so. Can you see if I bring that up how cool that looks? But I think I want them together. Now to do that, you are going to have to reduce some of the bulk here, because that's what's hitting. So you know I said about taking a bit of a triangle kind of out? That's what you're going to have to do. I know lots of you watch the videos before making, so I think it's good, you know, to do that, because you can do this before you stick it in. See there? You still want to give yourself a bit of a lip, because otherwise you're going to see the gifts inside. But it's pretty easy to do because it can stand on its, you know, it's quite stable. It's a little bit harder just going over the kind of join, but otherwise it's okay. Happy with that. Now, when you bring that all together, you want it to be able to go right down together, like so. Now I need to punch the holes in and add the ribbon to tie that all off. How cool does this look? I can't believe I've made it. So I'm going to hole punch. Again, you might want to do this before you put it together. But just, I'm going to go down as far as this will let me go. So it is 1/2 inch, no, 3/4 inch. I'll do that on each one. So before I seal that up, I'm going to pop the last layer of the segments in. Again, make sure your openings are all in the middle. Now, to get these out, what I would suggest is maybe putting a little tab. I might hole punch through them and have like a, let me just show you. Just imagine, because not everybody's going to have double layers, so everyone's, it's going to be a bit different, but you could easily simply just get a bit of card, fold it in half and stick that on top, and then it can go flat, and then they've got that tab to be able to pull up and pull the box out. Some of you might want to put some string in there. You might want to do little tabs that are actually on maybe like the side, because it is snug. This last one, come on, come on. Oh, it is literally, you can feel the air coming out of it. But like I said, you may now want to join that final piece together with this, like wrap it around like a belt. Okay, so if you're worried, that is my top tip, is don't seal this. Wrap it around like a belt at the very end. And that way, if it's a little bit open more on this side, just turn it around. They ain't gonna notice. Okay, so I've got a nice red ribbon here. Okay, so you want to weave it all through. So you've got something like this. Okay, so I've got my two kind of ends. And I've got the shiny side. You want to make sure that your ribbon, if it's got two sides, make sure you've got it all facing the right way. And you've got an even. But you want to make sure you've kind of weaved it through when it's open at its fullest. And that way you know you've got enough ribbon. Otherwise, when they open it, the ribbon might pop out. And just make sure you've got an equal amount. There we go. And then get those two and just carefully bring it all together. Do just spend a minute just going through. And I'm just going to leave that hanging down because I think long ribbon looks really, really elegant. So now we just need to add the base. Now these are obviously all holding very well. I'm not going to make it hard. Now you might want to add grey board onto the bottom. Again, everybody's going to have, you know, different things that they're going to be putting in this. I am probably going to have to use a different colour card because this isn't going to be wide enough. What you want it to be able to cover is the first big boxes. So from here to here. So the width we've got there is over 9 inches, and on the diagonal it's going to be like 10. So you need a piece of 12 by 12. So I'm going to use this deep green, which matches really well. If at a later date, once I start adding all my gifts in, I will just draw around another piece and stick it underneath as well, so it's extra strong. But all you simply want to do is sit it onto the cardstock, and you want to draw around just the biggest boxes. I mean, you could, if you want, draw around the whole thing. I mean, I might, maybe I'll do that actually. All I was going to say is just draw around the smaller boxes, but there's no harm actually drawing around the whole thing. Okay, and then cut it out, but cut slightly in from your pen line. Then you want to cut it out, but just come in slightly. Again, that way you know you're not going to get anything overhanging. And try and remember, like for me, that was the front, because again, things might be slightly off. So I'm going to have that as front and just put front, just so I know when I stick it down. Okay, so just double check anything that's overhanging, you can just trim it away, but I think that is going to work perfectly. So all you need to do now is add your glue to the bottom of each of the boxes, obviously not the segments, the pie pieces, and just be careful that none of the glue goes onto those. So I am going to just go careful around those and just flipped it over. And that way I can be sure that it's all going to be lined up. I don't think I need to trim anything away. Get rid of my glue strings. But I think it's all covered. Like I said, by just cutting just slightly in from where you've drawn around it. I might have a little bit there, but even that I might have got away with. So that is this year's selection box / advent calendar, which I didn't think I was going to be doing because I have no need for advent calendars. I have plenty, and all my family now have ones that I've made them, which they use each year. But if you are looking to make one, I know it's a bit late in the day because I would have had an advent out earlier, but this is pretty easy to make. So just lots of cutting, lots of mats and layers. But I hope you enjoy it. I think it's absolutely wonderful. I cannot wait to fill this. It's probably going to cost me an arm and a leg in chocolate to fill it, but I can't wait. And then I'm going to put some nice gifts in there. A couple of gift cards in some of these pockets as well. Yeah, I think it's fab. And like I said at the start, it's going to be great for so many occasions, because I think this looks a little bit like a tent as well. So you could have like a birthday kind of tent. Like I said, Harry Potter. I can just imagine it with birthday papers and then like an explosion of, you know, presents inside. You could have even the inside of these triangles with a nice message or more pattern paper. I think it's fab. If you are new to the channel and you like the thought of these selection boxes, check out my selection box playlist. I'll have that coming up now because there's lots of other wonderful boxes there. Make sure you subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on future videos, and I'll have the cardstock that I've used a link to all the other colours as well over on Craft Stash, because it is wonderful cardstock, great for 3D makes. So thank you as always for watching, and I'll see you all again soon. Bye.